Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Romance Class podcast. Romance Class is a community of Filipino authors of romance in English. Since 2013, our community has helped over 80 authors publish over 100 books. We also have a podcast, which is what you're watching or listening to right now, and it has been a space to explore more of what we can do with the books and what we can discuss with the authors. This podcast is produced by Mina V. Esguerra and Tanya Arpa and is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. My name is Mina V. Esguerra and I will be hosting the episode today. This is episode 2 of season 4 of the Romance Class podcast. This season, we will be talking to Romance Class authors and maybe readers and editors and artists too about the tropes we look for in books and media and how these tropes influence our work. In literary circles in the Philippines, the discussion around romance is kind of stuck always on the most basic level of what is it? Should people be writing it? Why does it make so much money? That's all interesting but repetitive, and we end up skipping important discussions about why we Filipinos write romance the way that we do. Before we start, we would like to remind everyone to subscribe to our channel here on YouTube. Head over to killing.pub/YouTube and please subscribe. Thank you. This episode is about rock stars. It is a particular kind of romance story that involves one or more musicians, usually in a band. Filipinos love music and love romance. It makes sense that the rock star romance trope would be a thing for us. Joining us in this episode today are Filipino romance authors who write about musicians, who love the rock star trope, and have opinions and feelings to share about this. Welcome to the podcast, Tara, Jay, Six, and Don. Hey everyone,
Hi.
and your
Hi.
Hello,
friends.
everybody.
My friend.
Good afternoon.
So I will have everyone introduce themselves and then we'll talk about our rockstar trope faves. Tara, why don't you start?
Yes, hi. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to everybody who's listening right now and watching. My name is Tara. I am a romance author, and I have written two romance books with rock stars in it. They're called Scandalized and Played by Ear, which are both part of the Backstage Pass series.
Thank you, Tara. Jay?
Hello, I'm Jay, and this is Luke. I'm a Filipino romance writer. I've written the playlist series, which is about a Filipino indie rock band called Trainman and their Japanese celebrity friend. The latest book is called Songs to Your Beat, which is about the grumpy drummer.
Thank you, Jay. Six?
Hi, so my name is Reyes, and I also have a series called Summer Storm. Summer Storm is a music festival set at the beach, and it currently has two books written in it. Feels like summer and sounds like summer. Yay.
Thank you, Six. Don?
Hello, my name is Don Lanuza. I actually work for the digital music industry by day, and then I write romance novels at night. I do have minor characters featured in my book, The Boyfriend Backtrack, and my latest short story, Noted, featured a Trope-tastic Kindness Bundle, features like a music producer, Li.
Thank you. So we have this panel who are interested in rock stars and maybe have a history of liking this trope for whatever reason. So we wanted to invite everybody here to talk about this and sort of share what goes on here, what goes on in a rock star romance, what is it about rock stars and the trope that we like, and like why rock stars. So
Why are rock stars?
Why are rock stars?
yeah, so we have a program outline here, and I'd like to start by asking our panel. Um, so if we are to explore why we like to write this and like to read this, maybe is it because of something we like in real life, or like how do we start discussing this, and what would you like to share? How about let's start with Tara?
Okay, so this is a very difficult question to ask, to answer. Pala. Thank you for your wonderful question, Lou.
Yes.
Um, Maybe let's start with the books that I've written na lang first, so that it's easier for me at least to explain why I wrote it. So I have been a K-pop fan for a long time, and also I watch a lot of K-drama. And one of my favorite K dramas is Minami Shineo, or You're Beautiful. It's on Netflix if you haven't seen it yet. Um, and it features a rock band, a Korean rock band, and it's basically Coffee Prince, but with a band instead of a cafe. So there's like a pretend thing going on with one of the members, and she joins a band as a guy. So and then there's a lot of shenanigans there, and the main the band leader and main vocalist falls in love with that character. So while watching that, I really like the dynamics of the band members, and also the people surrounding them, like their staff, the manager, and the producers. I liked how it was like the entertainment industry, at least in that K drama, was portrayed, and I like playing with that kind of dynamic. So when I started writing Scandalized, which was part of Spark NA actually in 2015, um, that was one of the things that I considered writing about. I like to write about K-pop stars, and then I thought of writing about the band. So there, that's where I got the general idea of writing about rock stars, because I like that drama, and I wanted to like reinterpret in a way that story, or reinterpret that kind of world in my books. So yeah.
Thank you, Tara. How about you, Jay? In any influences? Where did this all come from?
Where did this start? Oh yes,
Yes.
Explain
um,
yourself.
explain myself to explain myself and my books. I think as early as high school, I had friends who were already starting to pick up instruments and try to learn the guitar and eventually form their own band. So I had that kind of immersion into how bands can be formed, which was cool and can be funny. The band dynamics, if you have kids trying to form a unit and make an output that sounds good. And then eventually, when I got into going into gigs, I found Sandwich, which is my favorite local band to watch, and I enjoyed their dynamics. It's always fun to watch them live. But it's a three guitar setup, and the bassist is super chill as compared to how the three guitarists would be running around the stage and hitting each other and jumping on each other, and the drummer would be chill also at the back. So the dynamics that's there, and also the friendship and the found family that you can kind of glimpse from just watching the performance, and eventually going deep into interviews and how they produce their music and how they create their songs. So it was very influential for me in writing Tree Man. That's my excuse.
That's the origin story.
That's origin story.
Thank you, Jay. How about you, Six?
So I was actually one of those kids who were made just to learn piano and other instruments. So if you could see right there, that is
We can
Proof.
drums set
see.
and a bunch of guitars. Yeah. So
Visuals.
it's been part of my life from uh I think I was 5 or 6 when I started. So it's been there in varying degrees. And I remember the very first romance book that I actually read is called Love Notes by Joanna Campbell. It's part of Sweet Dreams, I think. Yeah. I found it in one of the shelves here. I think it was my mom's, and then that was the first one that I read. And it's not actually about rock stars. It's about a different kind of rock star, which is a violinist and a pianist in classical music camp. And then since then, I've always just had this fascination about those kinds of dynamics. and about people who are into music and are so immersed in that world. And my first book that I wrote was also from the spark and a workshop, which was Sounds Like Summer, which is Rockstar adjacent, but it's set in a music festival at the beach. So that's primarily where I set my the current books in that series. And then as you go on, you're just immersed more and exposed more to these bands and these other people are who do music for a living. Ganun. That's it. That's me.
Thank you, Six. Actual child musician turned turned rock star romance writer. Thank you. Thank you. So if you're not watching the YouTube right now, what's behind Six is an actual like setup for several instruments. So which what instruments are actually behind you?
So I'm
There's
gonna
a
move my camera for a bit.
there's
So you
a
see there's a
is that a drum set
yeah, that's
and
a drum
a
set. You have four guitars, one bass, one acoustic, and two electrics. And then on the other side is keyboards. I am on the keyboards. That's me.
that is a serious setup and all the instruments. Thank you. Don, how about you? What's the
Just
origin story?
it's like a family band in there,
Yes, actually, I played with my sisters.
right? Okay.
I have seen performance clips, so it's real.
Yeah, I saw the post on Instagram sometimes. I think you posted that.
Mhm.
Okay, for me, I started really young as well, but I didn't learn instruments. I was just really left at home with the TV. So I watched a lot of like TV movies or like um, movies that are about a particular artist or a rock star. So, like I do remember watching on HBO this movie about Richie Valens, the guy who sang La Bamba. so so it was like not to show my age, but uh, I think it really started with that, with those kind of documentaries, and then in high school, like Jay, I think a lot of like people during that time wanted to start bands. So of course you've got like those guys who play guitars. So yeah, so I think also I just really grew up around the time where like alternative bands are what we listen to. So Incubus, Coldplay, The Calling, even like the soloist John Mayer when he was still nice.
When we
I had
thought
to
he was
say
still
that.
nice.
Yes, John Mayer before all the things. Yeah, so I kind of like carried that through from high school to college, and then that was before the digital age, before we transitioned music into digital. um, and when things were in the gray areas in betweens, it was like really interesting because in the internet you get to discover more indie bands that are not only famous in the USA. So you find like bands from Australia and other places. So it was like a high time for me at the same time, and I guess that kind of links to how also I started thinking like I could work in the industry because I kind of like blogging about that kind of music. And I really just went into the music industry because I wanted to fangirl professionally in a way. I wanted to get the perks. I wanted to go to the gigs for free. I wanted the backstage passes. So yeah, so that's really how I started in a way.
Thank you, Don. I find it interesting, for example, reading just reading your books and being and knowing the kind of music you're interested in. So it's a range, right? It's a range of music, it's different kinds of music, it's different kinds of influences. And as Six described one of her books, it's like rock star adjacent. So it's not, you don't even have to necessarily have a character as an actual rock star, but the music industry kind of makes its way into the books. So that's really interesting. And if people are interested in in that kind of world, this is what these authors are exploring. So, uh, my next question is, who is your rock star bias and bias wrecker? Would you like to share? Let's start with Tara.
I don't think I have
Maybe,
a rock star bias.
but maybe as a, like, is there a particular influence, or a particular inspiration for a book, or
Yes.
would somebody who hasn't read your books, but be familiar with certain artists, when you mention that artist's name, will they say, "Oh, I may want to read that book because
Yeah.
a
So
similar vibe." Yeah.
I'm pretty old school K-pop. So I will say FT Island before the thing. So
There's
I
there's
also
like a before and after.
There are
I mean,
disclaimers to be
they're
had.
they are not all problematic. Okay, there's just one there, but they've kicked him out of the band already. So, yeah. I listened a lot to FT Island during the time. Yeah, like even before I wrote Scandalize and Play It by Ear, but also during the writing process, I always listen to their music because that's how I imagined the band, my fictional band, EG Project. This is them, Yiwan, Steven,
Yeah.
and Minchan. Um, that's how I imagine their music sounds like. So if you're into K-pop and are familiar with uh, FT Island, then you will probably know what I'm talking about. Their music is available on Spotify if you want to check them out. Yeah, they have pretty good music. They have been in the business for a while now. I think they started in 2007 or 2006, and they're on hiatus right now because all of the members are in the military. So
Oh, okay.
yeah. So
Okay.
I really don't have a rock star bias. I just like them. I just like them equally, I guess, because of their music. But I don't have to say this is my bias record. This is my bias. Um, I just like their music, and maybe sometimes I fangirl over Lee Hong Ki because he's great. But I can't really say that like he's my alt. The people K-pop people say he's my alt bias, but no, not really. So yeah.
How about you, Jay? Is there anyone you would like to mention here right now?
I wanted to call out Tara for like, but okay, fine.
for for
No,
lying.
but for lying, like lies. In general, my rockstar bias is always the lead guitarist. It's embarrassing. It's really always the lead guitarist, and then sometimes the drummer gets me. And to be specific, the one constant that I've had, and I haven't really fangirled over him for a long time, as far back as high school, but it always goes back to Alex Turner. And like yeah, like since the first time, kailan ko ba? I first listened to him I think in college, and then from there, fluorescent adolescent, and I bet you look good on the dance floor. So Arctic Monkeys, and then even when he did the project called The Last Shadow Puppets, and he has an album for the movie Submarine, so he also did the OST for that. I love how he writes because the way he writes songs, um, it's not the conventional way of writing it. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. He can find rhyme in places where you don't usually find it, and I think that's great. And when I try to write lyrics for the playlist series, which I try to do with in the POV of whoever band member I'm writing for, I usually have an Alex Turner song on replay on shuffle, and that's how I am able to kind of write my own lyrics to say yeah, and yeah, so he's kind of my muse.
Yes.
Oh no. Can I watch him live, please, before I die? I said, please, before I die, please. I would want that.
Well, we've mentioned it on the internet, so you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's out there.
Manifesting. It's out there.
Thank you, Jay. How about you, Six? Anything you would
So
like
I
to
have
admit
a
to?
let's see. So for me, it's more like a mix of different influences as well. It's the same with Jay. It also there's always a layer of Turner in there somewhere, and then
Earlier, yes.
yes, like it's inevitable at this point. And then there's also a dash of Korean bands. For me, it's Day Six. You can also listen to them if you are interested. They're also on Spotify, but yeah. So they have one of these band dynamics that I really like. So also I just like watching them play, which is something that you do when you watch uh, a rock band or rock stars or any band for that matter. Like there's just something fascinating about the way these people play their instruments because and they also have very specific personalities, and it's almost like there's a specific trope attached to them. But if you're a bassist or if you're a drummer, you always have this inkling of what to expect. Uh, it's not always just the one thing, but it's that feel really that makes it so interesting to watch and to write about. So who else? I also remember very significantly a couple of years ago, Sugar Free also, and who else? Yeah, I think those are really the groups and the bands that I have to play in the background when I have to remember or if I have to get into a certain mood to write for things. Yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you, Six. How about you, Don? Any
Yeah,
inspirations?
I'm just gonna say that when we said yes to this podcast, we created a group chat, and I put Alex Turner's face on the, as like the main photo, and I just said, I think we can all agree,
That
and
Alex
apparently we
Turner.
do.
And then we
But
did.
yeah,
And we did, we agreed.
yeah, but yeah. So Alex Turner definitely just because his face and the other reasons that Jay mentioned. But yeah, I think like his best era was AM, right? Like with the,
AM.
Mm-mm.
right with the
Oh my
leather
god.
jacket and the coif
Yes.
hair.
And the
That's like
Yay,
pompadour.
yay.
ooh, yeah.
That
And
was the
then
era.
for me, my I think the question was who's your bias? Like I think when we thought of this question, it was more like the positions in their band in a way.
Mm,
So for me, I think it's always the lead singer because I'm basic like that. It's like the face of the group. So yes, of course, I always go first for the face. So like Hale, um, it doesn't it doesn't hurt that Champ is he looks like that. Sponge Cola. Who else? Vampire Weekend. I love Ezra Koenig, and I also wish I could see him live for once after the Panini eyes, please. Um, but yeah, I think I do get that I also get very sidetracked by the drummers. Drummers have that swag. Like
Yeah.
sometimes like they're at the back, but if you start watching them, they're like, oh, okay, so it's a different world out there. He has his own bubble, and if you're watching him, it's like, okay, the other people are like not existing anymore. It's just the drummer. So yeah, so George Daniel from the 1975, I really loved him as the drummer. And I feel like I also had a face with basses because they're usually the quiet ones in the group. Like when you have interviews, they don't talk a lot, so that's a little bit interesting for me as well. But yeah, I guess I can do like a whole roulette of all the band members. Because like as Six said, because they have their own personalities, and then sometimes even if it's a different band, sometimes they do play that similar roles. Like the lead singer is usually like the more social one, more talkative one,
Mm.
because it's like he has to talk for the band, like right? And like the bassist is like the quiet guy, Sometimes he's the songwriter of the group and stuff like that. So yeah, it's kind of fun to study that as well in real life and apply it when you write fiction.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that. Tara, do you want to add anything to your answer?
Do you want
No,
to
I'm
edit
so
that?
sorry.
Applying.
do you want to add? But also, I wanted to just follow up because some of you have actually written. I mean, that kind of thing about choosing which person in the band you prefer is cool. But you've written more than one book featuring other members of the band. So I guess I have a question about that. Like, what happens when you're writing somebody as a main character or love interest who wasn't originally the bias? How do you feel about that? And do you start writing like the first book you've written, was that the bias?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So
Jay, Jay, would you like to start? Jay, have you or have you not saved the bias for last?
Wait, the first, oh my God, bigla akong, hold on.
It's the hardest.
It's a hard, difficult question. The first three books were already about the guitarists, right? So I have three guitarists in the band in Train Man. So it started with them already, with Jill and Nikki. But yeah, I'm saving Kim for last. Maybe does this mean I love him the most? I guess so. It's revealing. But yeah, for Son and Nino, it was a different exercise. I did feel like I was writing a separate chapter of the series than when I was writing for the first three books. That the first three books felt like their own mini corner of the series. And then Son and Nino had their own. And then Kim will have his own by himself. Maybe. But yeah, it was a different exercise because it's a different mindset. They're not necessarily always my favorite band members, although there are, as Don mentioned, there are phases where you kind of focus on the bassist sometimes and you fall in love with the drummer sometimes. So there are ways to get feelings for that. And I think I was able to do that somehow. The books came out, didn't they? Yeah.
Thank you.
I had
That's
to
the
explain
answer.
myself.
Yes. Sorry, Tara. Tara, were you about to say something? And please how would we actually define palabayas for at least in there is a usage of it but I guess in the way that we talk about it and in relation to your books, like is there how would you define the term for the people listening?
I guess for me, when you say bias, especially in K-pop terms, it's the person it's the person in the group that you follow always with, like, if you're watching like a group performance, especially, it's the person in the group that you're always gravitating to when you're watching or something like that. And then you talk about them always on Twitter, on you you, you like their Instagram posts a lot, you follow their career more than any other member of the group. That's how I would define bias in the K-pop way. To answer the earlier question about biases, I'm so sorry because I thought
We
that's
had a
why
bad
Jay was
meeting, okay?
calling me out on my BS. I said I didn't have a bias, but I did. I thought we were talking about actual, artists, but for me, it's the lead guitarist and vocalist first. Vocalist because they're the first person you're gonna hear singing. Their voice um, usually is the thing that brings me to whatever state. I mean, if the song is happy, I feel happy because the lead singer makes it happen. If it's sad, then they're the carrier of the message, the main carrier. And then when you watch them naman live, or if you watch a performance, it's usually I look at the lead guitarist because they are very, very skilled. Like I
Okay.
like the way, yeah, I like the way they move around the stage and the way they make their guitars cry.
Oh, oh my god.
Oh, I can hear someone reacting in the background.
Someone crying in the
Um,
background.
and
It's not
then in
Jay.
terms of bias wreckers, it will be the drummer for me. So it's always the drummer. So it's if it's not the lead guitarist, it's the drummer. So in terms of my books, the first book, first two books were about basically the lead guitarist and the band leader, and then the next book that will be written will be the drummer. But so and the last one will be the bassist. But I actually planned it out that way because I wanted to go from eldest member to the youngest. So that's like the
Okay.
hierarchy. Yeah.
So that was the order. Okay. Lead vocalist enthusiast, where we at? So
Me,
there's a there's a
me.
comment section here because we're streaming the recording of this podcast on YouTube, on Twitter, and on our Facebook page. So we actually have comments from our audience. We will get to those comments later. So if you have questions, definitely drop them into the comment section. Thank you. We have a comment for Bridge, lead vocalist enthusiasts. Where are we at?
Glad to see you here, Bridge.
So if there's
Glad you
any,
made it, Bridge.
does anyone else in the panel have like an an opinion about your bias versus who you write first into a book and
No,
what?
so,
Yes. Yeah.
sorry.
Somebody else explain yourself.
Six.
No, no, I'm just gonna say, sorry. I'm just gonna say the bias for me. The way that I think about it is, remember when Backstreet Boys were out and everyone was like, "Who's your favorite member?" I think that's how you you
Yeah, yeah,
answer
yeah,
your
yeah.
bias. Like I'm a Brian girl, like something like that. I'm Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
like the
Thank you.
basic way to
Yes.
answer. Okay.
And the international way to apply bias. Yes. Yes, six. Your opinion on writing bias versus not the bias.
So I think it also really depends if you're talking about a 5-person band, a 4-person band, or a 3-person band, because the dynamics are always going to be different. Like if for example you have a 5-person band, that means you have more than one guitarist, and then you have a bass guitarist. And what that usually means is that there's a totally different dynamic between the lead guitarist, which is almost always the front man or the vocalist, and your rhythm guitarist, which is an entirely different trope by itself. So since we're there,
Since
I
we're
think
there,
that
yes.
since we're there, I think that is where I gravitate the most. Uh, it's where you get hit by second lead syndrome really really hard.
Yes. I
Like
was gonna
the
ask if that is the same thing because it feels like it's that dynamic but in a band.
yeah,
And
it's
then
more or less that. So there's the rhythm guitarist or the second guitarist who also sometimes does backup vocals. So that's
back
also a
up
different
talaga. Oh
backing
my
Yeah.
vocal,
gosh.
Uh,
and also the bassist. So there's also that dynamic that you have to like pay attention to or observe or just keep in mind when you're watching these bands or thinking about how you write them within their dynamic. It's a thing.
Thank you.
it's
uh,
funny how we're talking about this and realizing that we've written, well, I've written the books without thinking about this too much, and then now that we're talking about it, yes,
Yes.
that's exactly what it is. And yeah, I don't know if it's good that we're examining it this closely.
because
It's like
as
a side
somebody,
test.
yeah, but I find it interesting because you actually see the dynamics present in the books already, right? Even if this because one person is going to be the love interest or the main character, but everyone else is there, so you kind of establish the dynamic already, and then you have to do the thing where in the next book this person is the main person and everyone else is and then everyone else is
And then
suddenly
everyone else.
secondary. Yeah, and then everyone else. Yeah, so it's interesting, but because you've actually written different sides of this story and explored. By now, you've explored like different sides of these uh, musicians and music adjacent people. Okay. Next question. So, are there pitfalls to writing rock stars? Like, are there regrets or bad decisions regarding these life choices of yours? So how would you advise, like, how would you advise that somebody write a rock star as a main character or love interest? Hirap.
Tara's covering her face when she knows it's her turn. Come on.
Yeah. How about you? Let's start with Tara.
Yeah.
No, because
So
you've written characters that uh, they're not you've written several characters
yeah.
in already. So like, did you feel like, okay, I would advise that someone do it this way based on how you experienced it writing it, having readers react to it.
Actually, I have not realized this until the four of us, Jay, Six, and Don, and me, had a meeting last week for this podcast. I didn't realize it, even if it's like right there, that we have actively avoided like the negatives, the negative things about rock stars, like substance abuse, womanizing. You know, the things that rock stars are known for, like in the West. Like for example, if you watch how they interpret in the media, at least, you know,
Mm-hmm.
when you watch rock star movies or people or movies that have rock stars in it, there's always sex and drugs, you know. And then
Yeah.
when you look at our rock stars, Train Man, East Genesis Project, Arabella, um, they're they don't smoke, they don't do drugs. They're faithful to their to their girlfriends. So it's like a really really clean version of the rock star. Um, so that's something that I was thinking about like the entire week. Like, yeah, okay. I mean, is this still realistic? But that's how we want it to be because we're writing romance,
Mm.
and we don't want to like romanticize these kinds of things that are usually connected to the rock star life. And I mean, for me, I don't have any like regrets or things that I want to change about the way that I've written my books so far. At least the Backstage Pass series. I love my band boys, and I like how they are clean, or how they are, how they are good boys, good people, and I don't think I'll be writing them any other way. Um, yeah, so that's how I think of it so far.
Okay. Thank you, Tara. How about you, Jay?
Well,
Is
yeah,
that
but
is there a reason why somebody's taking one character is taking too long to to reveal himself?
is it maybe that's my regret. Yeah, but what Tara said, the realization when we had our band meeting last week, so Tara, Six, Dawn, and I, it's just we love watching bands. We love watching performances, and there's this kind of fantasy that there's a lens that you kind of see them through. But then the more you dive into the lifestyle and you listen to, or you read into how their lives actually are, it can snowball into dark places.
Mm.
And like if you look at the lives of Kurt Cobain and John Lennon and all these icons who are really really good in terms of their performance, their skill, and their are awesome in their music, but the way they live their lives and maybe also the way they would have their romantic lives maybe it's not necessarily how we want it. So we kind of took what we like about the lifestyle and these rock stars and highlighted those elements. For example, the skills is are always going to be there. Our rock stars are always going to be really good at what they're doing. They're going to be awesome at their instruments. They're going to have the charisma and the stage presence. But they're also going to be good people. They're going to be decent people who are extra when they fall in love and who are actually going to be good for their partners. And also about having that found family. It can turn into a codependent, abusive relationship sometimes if you're going to be with people, working with them that closely for long periods of time. But when we write our rock stars, we kind of try to make it more into found family, healthy relationships that's just fun and funny and friendship and just something really wholesome, not because it's not realistic, but because that's how we want them to be. And in terms of regret, no regrets really, but it's hard to write him. I don't know why he's not talking to me, but yeah, maybe because I don't know. I just can't write him right now. But yeah, maybe because he's really, maybe I do love him the most. Maybe that's why it's harder to write him now. But yeah, that's essentially the realization that we had after that meeting.
What an interesting meeting and session that you were able to figure out these things about your own books. That's funny. How about you, Six?
So I think,
Same question.
yeah. So I think before you even start thinking about how you're going to write a rock star, you have to first define for yourself what do you mean by a rock star. So there's always that level of, okay, I'm gonna write a musician, but is this person a rock star? And if it is a rock star, what qualifies them as a rock star? Usually we have this sort of mainstream definition of them that goes along with the words sex, drugs, and rock and roll, which is interesting because when we did Summer Crush, which is the anthology that I have written with Jay and Tara, which is about a music festival called Summer Crush with all our bands, and the tagline for it was peace, love, and rock and roll. So I think that in itself sort of defines for us what we want our rock stars to be like. It's basically taking away all the things that we do not like as people, the things that we don't like seeing in this world, and just keeping it a place full of uh, good people who are also trying to be better. They're just trying to be kind to themselves and to other people, because uh, genius often takes you to dark places, like as Jay has spoken about earlier. Uh, and also, studios are very stressful places. So when you're in that lifestyle, there are a lot of things that can happen, and not all of them are good. So I think for us, it was also trying to keep an environment where people can be healthy, communicating things. One of the favorite things that I like reading about in Train Man and with EGP is the way that the band speaks to each other, or how the way they interact with each other. I think it's one of those definitions of found family that I also really like reading and writing about. So I think that's one of the most important things that you have to pay attention to, because it's not just about the one person. It isn't just about having the one front man and then having backup musicians who are just there to make the front man look good. It's about uh, three, four, or five people in the same band, and all of them having their own moments, their highlights, and their own books eventually. So when it comes to regrets, I think it's the same for all of us, that we're actively trying to not really regret anything in terms of how you portray the characters or certain members of the band, unless you just really want everybody to hate them.
Thank you, Six. The thing I want to add about that is I think your books acknowledge that these things exist, but with other characters over there in other parts of the in other
Over there,
parts.
not here.
Yeah, in other parts of I mean, it's an acknowledgement that there are things that are not good and not pleasant and are quite toxic in the environment that they're in, but but your main romance characters will not be the source of it. I think that's the difference. Um, okay, how about you, Don? Do you have any
It's just
feelings
something that
and opinions? Yeah.
it's just something that I realized when Jay and Six were talking earlier, that there is that stereotype that if you say someone is a rock star, there's always gonna be like sex and drugs involved in it. But I I feel like if we do write them in this way without the toxic environment, without the things that are bad, maybe it also allows people to see that it's not a requirement for a
Mm-hmm.
rock star to do that in a way, because I know like a lot of talented people who are not into those things, but they do want to play, they do want to be rock
Mm-hmm.
stars in a way without that, without any of that. So, in a way, it's not really like us removing anything. Maybe it's just us allowing a new look to the rock star, and maybe speaking for the people who are not into that lifestyle in a way, I think.
Yes, thank you. Yes, yes. But that is, I think, what I think that's what's been happening with your books and the worlds that you've been creating, right? Like you are showing different kinds of people who can exist in this environment and are quite talented and do have those dreams, those rock star dreams. Yes, six.
So I just remembered something that when we after we had that meeting, I had to go review all the Rockstar romances that I have read. Well, I can't say that I read them because I tried like a couple of pages, and then after a few pages in, I just
Oh
gave
no.
up.
Oh.
So there's this thing that they write about rock stars, especially the frontman or the lead guitarist or whoever is the first one that they write about. That they tend to be very unpleasant people, like very toxic, and I think it really also plays into that alpha stereotype. I know that's a thing, and some people really like that, and that's fair and that's valid, but that's not something that I personally am into. So I think also for me, it's not actively avoiding it. It's just writing more of what I like and what we like. So yun. So there's that also to consider. That's it.
Thanks. You are
Yeah,
writing
I
what
feel
you
like
like, right?
I've read some of those kind of rockstar romances you mentioned, and there's always like a taste of cheating at some
Yes.
point. That's part of the
Mm-hmm.
plot in
Mm-hmm.
a way. There's like a,
Mm-hmm.
a groupie in there. It's gonna be the conflict. So I guess for
Yes.
us, it's more of stepping out of that challenge of the stereotypes, and actually exploring different parts of what a rock star means.
Because there are
Is
also
there
more stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there an issue? So we have a point here in your outline that issues that you avoid uh writing in to make it romance. Is there like is there one particular issue, like for Tara, for Jay, for Six, and for Dawn, like what would absolutely not appear in your book? What's associated with a rock star stereotype that would absolutely not appear in any of your books? Tara?
For me, it's probably drugs, substance
Okay.
abuse. Yeah,
Okay.
I definitely would. Yeah.
How about you, Jay?
Well, that's going to be a hard no for any book, any kind of substance abuse. But also, I think we talked about toxic relationships and how it can be something that's not. I'm sure it's not happening only in a rock star trope or in a rock star relationship, but there's a very specific kind of toxic relationship that exists if you are a rock star and the partner is not a rock star. So and I think in our books we try to explore those kinds of relationships where it's not necessarily people in the band falling in love with each other, but falling in love outside of the circle. So that kind of dynamics where it should be healthy and balanced. as compared to how it can be in real life, where it's not really that uh, non-toxic, and it's not healthy. So yeah, that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. How about you, Six?
So there's also this other trope where the rock star tends to be a little, well, not just a little, but they're mean to whoever their love interest is at first and to other people. And then it ends up being really toxic and they just fail to communicate with each other. So that's also something that I really cannot stand
Mm.
in these people.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
how
it.
about you, Don?
Yeah, I get what they were saying. Anyone who is abusive, because sometimes they cross that line, right? Like when people say they write alpha romances, there's always like this kind of um, impression that they're kind of mean. I don't know if we can say like douchebags, but they are. That's really it. Like it's not because they're alpha; it's because they're being mean. But yeah, I think one thing that I kind of just step away from, if it's like I mentioned earlier, like if there's cheating involved in there, even if it's like an accidental thing, like no,
An
that's not romance for me. I'm
an
sorry.
accident. Uh-huh.
Yes.
There's
An
no such thing
accident.
as an accidental cheating, though.
I know. I know. That's why I said.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. Anything abusive from the love interest, it's just not cool with me anyway.
Thanks. So, we got some questions. The panelists here asked uh, their social media followers if they had questions for the panel. We'll have some in the comments now, but they received some questions on Instagram and Twitter. So I will ask them now. And the first question is there somebody from your real life? So this is not so I so context here. Can I just give context? So it's not just the professional musicians and music industry people that are part of our lives as bands, because if you're Filipino and if there's always gonna be someone who sings great at video, okay? Who is in who is in a high school band, who is in a college band, who is performing at weddings, who is in the choir. It's a very we are like 1 degree away from every one of us is 1 degree away, or the person who is in a band or performing. Is there is there anybody in your actual life, not the professional musician, who has been an inspiration for your books? Tara?
No, no. I don't have anybody like in my like close circle that inspired me to write the books that I've written, the rockstar books that I've written. But I did have band aspirations when I was younger. So that's I had a group of friends who all knew how to play instruments, and we sort of started a band in high
Oh
school, but
my
that
god.
didn't no, it didn't take off. Like I tried learning guitar because of that, but it didn't take off. So I'm just living my band dreams through paper.
I
So
wonder if
yeah.
that's common with a lot of authors writing rockstar romance. I don't know. That's interesting. Thank you, Tara. How about you, Jay?
Am I still here?
What
Was
a
I not
juicy question.
disconnected?
Jay, please answer truthfully.
Jade, I think you have an answer.
Um, okay, so I mentioned earlier that like in high school, I think for me it started in high school when people like, first year high school when people started listening to Parokya and Edgar and Kamikaze and the E-Heads, and after buying the cassette tapes and the CDs, the next thing they bought was the guitar. And there would be one person who's extra cute with the guitar, and who eventually learned to play the drums and is also extra cute with the drums. And also in college, there will still be people who are like that, and they're you know they helped. Thank you for existing, I guess.
Thanks, Jay. Six.
So it was when I was also in high school. Everything goes back to high school. Oh no.
Oh no.
Yeah. So when I was in high school, I also started going to a different music school. So this was an actual school type of environment, not just your teacher coming to your house to teach. So for the first time, I had classmates, and I saw other people, and eh, there was this one person also that there was this one violinist, which in a way is also the rock star in the classical music world. And so he hasn't showed up yet in any of the books that are currently out, but there is one on the way eventually that is, I'm not saying that it's very specifically that experience, but it's one of those tropes that I think is important to write. Not personally, not for a personal reason, of course not. So
Of
so
course
yeah,
not.
there is of course not. There is that. Yeah.
So the answer is yes. Okay.
Yes. The
That's
answer is there is
wonderful.
always one person.
That's wonderful. Thank you. How about you, Don?
I feel like everyone who started playing the guitar in high school kind of became hot in a way because of that, because he had the skills to do that, even if before he's not really cute and all, but it's plus foggy points if he learned an instrument. um I don't know if I used anyone. The fact that I forgot these people before this date, I was thinking about it before we went live when I was putting my makeup. It's like, did I ever date anyone from a band or anything? It's not like we dated. It's like, I don't know. It's weird when I don't know how people do it now. How dating works, but like when you're in college, right? Like you kind of talk and stuff like that. So yeah, I guess. Um, I guess.
It's the eye
Yeah, but
rolling for me.
no, no, I was just like really when I was thinking about it, it's like, oh, I forgot this person, but yeah, I guess maybe he kind of inspired somebody. But yeah, I really like forgot what, so maybe that doesn't mean anything. But yeah, like Tara said, like if she had like a band aspirations, I did sing when I was younger, but I didn't know how to play instruments. So I would get a guy from like a band to play the guitars for me or whatever. So there's that kind of interaction. But not. I was never recruited into a band. I was always a solo person, getting somebody's guitarist to play with me for a night or something. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm ever gonna use them. I'm fine with the professional artist inspiration. I'm fine with looking from afar and just imagining how their lives would.
Yeah.
Then yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next question. From I this might be from Instagram. Is there a romantic trope from a movie, drama, book, or real life situation that you were inspired by when you were writing your rockstar romance book?
I
How did
mentioned
it
I
start?
mentioned it earlier when we started. It was my thing was really You're Beautiful or Minami
Mhm.
Shineo, the K drama. If anyone who's watching or listening is familiar with that, they probably will see a little bit of that in my books. The trope, the way the characters are written, and the way they interact with each other is kind of like that. Especially if I could mention like one thing about the one similarity, it's that one person in the band reads fanfics of themselves on the internet.
Oh no.
So that's not a romantic trope, but like it the dynamics of the band is pretty much the same. It's just a different character. It's just different characters, and I guess when I was writing the Backstage Pass series, one of the things that I avoided, the trope that I avoided that's in You're Beautiful is that every member of the band fell in love with the girl, the main character. So I avoided that. I didn't want to write that. I wanted to give them different people to fall in love with. So there's no unnecessary drama. So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Tara. Anyone else? Like anything from movies or dramas or real life? Yes, Don?
I had a real life situation that was really cool because I work for the industry, right? So
Yes.
I visited an artist. He had a studio at his house. And they were recording, and then they kind of like casually said, "You want to hear like what's like the rough cut of something?" Then said, "Okay, you listen to it." And then I just remembered like this moment after the song played, and they kind of just looked at me for like validation or whatever. Yeah, so that was like a really like kind of a cool moment for me. So I kind of was thinking of that experience when I wrote the last scene from Noted, from the last short story, like the whole turning to the person next to you after after he made you listen to a song that he just created that he is working on. So yeah, so that's kind of cool.
So the seeking validation
Yeah.
seems to be an unexpected but relatable trope. Yes. Does
But
anyone
it's
else
true.
have yeah, does anyone else have a real life or drama inspiration? Hi Six. Yes.
So there's also this when you're playing instruments and when you have sheet music in front of you or you're writing it down, and then the other person just leans over you to like to correct something or to write
Oh my
something down on
god.
what you're writing, and then there's just
Interesting.
that moment when you're close. But you're a little too close. What's happening? And then you just get distracted, and yeah, that very specific trope. And also, it gets
I
really
get
intense
it.
when you're practicing. Yeah, that one.
Oh, can I add something?
Yes, Tara.
So, in Play It By Ear, I wrote a scene there that I remember now. I've seen something like it on a live performance of FB Island.
Mm.
I think one of the guitarists had trouble with his guitar or something like that, and it wasn't playing well. And one of the other guitarists went to them on the stage and played their thing for them. So I wrote something like that in Play It By Ear, and because it was the first time I saw something like that, and I thought that it would work in a romantic kind of setting. So it was just these two guys, one they both holding their guitars, and then one was like reaching in front of the other so that they can play the the other person's guitar. So yeah.
Yeah,
it,
that's
it,
interesting. Okay.
it was interesting visually. It was interesting. So yeah, I wrote that in Play It By Ear. Yeah.
Thank you, Tara.
But yeah, I
I
feel like
since
if there's always an instrument, there's always the thing when you're trying to teach someone and you're gonna hold
yeah.
them from behind.
Yeah. That's
Y-
the
Since we're talking about the small moments.
that's the
Yeah.
trope, right?
Even
Or
just with the
like
guitar and you're trying to teach the chords, so you can't put your fingers on the right frets and the right strings, and there's helping hands to get you there. So that's also that's more minute than the thing. That's a smaller moment, but it has a impact also.
there is also that scene from Julie and the Phantoms.
Which one?
With
My
Luke and
favorite is
Julie
that
on the
my favorite
piano.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, the one that everybody has to stop and ask, is that legal, Luke? Are you allowed to do that?
Um,
Yeah,
That
so
one.
that's uh I will recount that scene. So there's a scene, if you watch Julie and the Phantoms on Netflix, there's a scene where how do you describe it? She's singing. So Julie
She's
is the
singing.
vocalist of the band, but the band is actually ghosts. But anyway, let's not
it's not
question this
important.
further. Yeah, let's not question that.
That's
And
only a
then when they
peripheral detail.
and then they're visible to an audience when they perform. And in one song, she is singing, but Luke, he's the lead guy. Yes, Luke is the
Boy.
lead guy in the band, and he sort of like joins her in
In her
he
personal
he
space.
like he plays with his guitar what she is
Yeah.
singing, almost
Yes.
like he's duetting with his
Mhm.
guitar with her vocals, and then gets really close to her. And it's so weird because in the Spotify album that part isn't there. So it is a normal song. This is my complaint to to the internet.
Where is it? We need it.
It is it is a guitar solo and it's a vocal solo, but it's not presented in the soundtrack album the way that it is in the series. So anyway, that's an interesting moment that should appear in books. Anyway.
The
I'm
reason I
so
think that it's not in the soundtrack is that the actor playing Luke actually thought of that on the spot or while filming. He
That's
just came up.
terrible of him.
I know. It's like this is the idea. What if
Why?
I'm
Why?
playing
Why?
guitar
Why
as
would
if
you do that? Yeah.
I'm singing to her? So his idea is really to make his guitar duet with her, which is so annoying. But it's a perfect moment, and that's I think why it's not in the soundtrack. But it should be. It's amazing.
Yeah.
They
It
should
is a
re-record it
wonderful
though.
moment.
They should
Yes.
re-record it.
So, okay, next question. Um, if you had to choose another band member in your books to have a relationship with the main character, so this is mixing up your canon ships. Who would you choose and why? Someone.
Who thought of this question?
Yeah, that was a question from the
Why
internet.
Who
would you
asked
say,
this
why would you
question? I
ask
just
that
want to talk.
question?
Why would
Why
you
would
do
you
this
do
to
that?
them?
I'm the one who received this question, but I should not have submitted this. Maybe
Should
I
have
Should have
should have.
filtered.
I should have just deleted. Oh, sorry, I didn't get that somehow. I don't know. Somebody
Yes,
else answer.
but it's an interesting thought exercise.
It's,
Do you have an answer?
As far
maybe
as
Tara
crack
has an
ships
answer.
go, as far as crack ships go, I think it would be interesting to write Steven and Fee together. So
Interesting.
yeah, because
Oh, wow.
Steven is like the chick magnet of the group. Nobody has no. I mean, people know that he dates around a lot, but nobody has really caught him. Dispatch has nothing on him.
And he
So,
doesn't
but
have the standalone book yet. So
no, he doesn't have the
so
standalone book
technical
yet. But
technically no pairing yet. Yeah.
yeah, he's next, but he yeah.
He's
Um, so Steven and Fee is like a very strong and determined woman, and I feel like the dynamics would be funny because um, I'd like to see Steven really get whipped. Like, like I feel like he's gonna be whipped AF for Fee, just like Gabe is. So that would be a nice change to like Steven's usual playful personality, for him to be like, oh yeah, do you want me to sit here like forever? okay. you know, that kind of thing where he kind of waits for the other person to tell him what to do when he's usually the person who's like, yeah, let's do this, yeah, let's do that, I don't care what happens, and stuff like that. But yeah, she, yes.
AU, please.
Cat, no.
Now you have to write the AU.
No, no, no.
Somebody else write the AU though.
Does anyone else have an answer for your yeah,
I
6?
volunteer, Alexis. There you go.
Yeah, because this one's actually, as far as crack ships go, at first it was like, haha, that's funny. And then the more that I thought about it, the more it sort of made sense. Uh, this one is brought to you by Bridge, so it's Jet and Riz.
Yes, yes,
Interesting. Thank you, Bridge,
Yes.
for that.
Thank you, Bridge.
Thank you.
Yes.
Why
So
does it make
there's
sense?
uh,
Why does it make?
like if you put them in the same room together, uh, sparks will fly. There will be chemistry, which was interesting because I tried. There was this one AU that was one of the challenges that we wrote a couple of months ago. I don't even remember when that was anymore, but
What is
yeah,
it
it
was
that?
in
did. It
August.
worked. Yeah, that one, it worked. It was so strange and it was so revealing. It was a revelation, and so that was an interesting experience. Thank you, Bridge.
Thank you.
Bridge in
Yes,
the
thank
call.
you.
Mhm.
Yes, thank you, Bridge, in the
Bridge in the
comments.
comments. Citrus mango sketch. Okay.
Does anyone else have an answer for their crack ship?
Well, I'm
Come
just
on,
gonna take
Jay.
off from yeah. So fine. No, I'm just gonna take off from what Six said because I remembered when she was talking. But in Summer Crush, we forced Mickey to work with Riz, and that was funny. That was so funny because there's this super soft guy, and then there's this ice queen, and they were trying to make a song, and that was so funny. And we didn't really have didn't spend too much time trying to talk to see how they would actually do the writing, but the parts that we did that we were able to conceive was really fun, and I think it would be cool to explore how they would. I don't know. Oh my
It would
god.
be involve a lot of telepathy.
Yes, out of telepathy.
So in the comments, Chi is suggesting Jill and Anna. When?
Six and I though explored Jill and Riz.
Which
That was
also
also
involves a
good.
lot of mental telepathy.
I know. Just sitting together and okay, somehow
It
something's
works.
happening. Okay, thank you, friends. We'll see.
There is another request for Jill and Anna from Bridge.
Maybe when we're drunk, Alexis and I
This
will
is
do
this
something.
is becoming,
This is
yeah,
going
this
to
is
happen.
becoming crossover AU ideas, which is awesome.
Maybe.
Hmm.
Anyone else? Anyone else have a ship
Thank you for
to
your support in
sail?
the comments.
There
Okay,
is
I
a
have a
canon crack ship in my books that I always mention.
yes.
It's Yuan and Steven,
Okay.
but I can't write it. I can't write. Somebody write it because I can't. It's always like it's the fans of EG Project shipping them. So it's always being mentioned in like the comment section of the books. So their ship name is Yevon, but sometimes I think about it, but I really cannot write it. So I don't know. Somebody
It's
write it. Somebody
So
else, please.
you've sent it
someone
out
write a
to the
fanfic.
internet. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Someone else write a fanfic.
this is the second to the last question, and it's more of, I guess, a choice. Which is the superior ship, Rockstar and fan, or Rockstar and no idea who the Rockstar is? Yes, Tara, what's your answer?
The second
Rockstar,
one.
the second one, Rockstar and
Yeah.
person who has no idea who the Rockstar is.
Yes,
Uh
that's my
huh.
answer.
How
I
about you,
don't. I
Jay?
don't.
What's your hot take?
That's also my answer. When Tara dropped this question in the group chat, I was like, I have an answer because and it's actually also what I've done already with Nino's book. Is that Santana doesn't have any idea who he is, or at least doesn't like his music, and it was so fun to have him without his superpowers. That he can't go to her and say, I'm a drummer of this rock band, and have her like him, and in some degree already. So she's like, okay, that's cool. So I think it's more fun to write, also more fun to read because the dynamics shifts if it's somebody who doesn't know the rock star.
How about 6? What's the answer?
Yeah, same. I have the same answer. So there's, it's really fun, like when I remember there's this one scene that I wrote in Summer Crush 2 with Michael Bryan. And let's just call her Mary Clarence for now. And she only has a very vague idea of who Michael Bryan is and that he is in a band. So that was the point where Michael Bryan had to actually drop the line that he is in fact a part of the band that is playing later that afternoon in the show. And it was so funny because he doesn't usually have to do that. He doesn't have to flex that he's in the band. So that's always a fun thing to write.
How about Dawn?
But can somebody write like Rockstar and not a fan? Like the person knows, but she's
And
just
is not
really
a
not a
fan.
fan. That would be so funny. But yeah, I feel like just for me, yeah, both are fine. But I think for the fantasy, it's fun if it's a fan to
Okay.
live the fantasy.
So there are there are more variations to this than the options presented. Yes. Yes, somebody OMG. So Chi in the comments says OMG, someone right, not a fan. So so it's specifically someone knows the rock star, knows that they exist, they're aware of the fame, but are not a fan.
Not impressed.
They're not a fan at all. So I'm so sorry to the rock star. Yes, also a comment, rockstar and fan, dami acts to be able to work around the conflict of interest. There is a very there's a dynamic there that's very tricky, and someone needs to really be able to write that well, to be able to get around that. Yes. So the
I
last
also,
question that we have. Oh, sorry, please
yeah.
continue.
Yeah, because there's also
6.
levels of there are also levels of being a fan. Like there's also a casual fan, and there's like a
Mhm.
hardcore diehard fan. So even just between those two distinctions, and there are more in between. I think it really takes a lot of thinking and a lot of you know reflecting and meditation if you're going to tackle something like that.
Yeah.
So the last question collected online uh, from from before today is what are your hype songs or zone out songs? So I guess recommend a song to the people listening. I mean, we've recommended artists and bands throughout this, but maybe a song, yeah, in particular.
Suddenly have to take out my Spotify.
Yeah.
How do
I
we
same. I'm doing the same.
Hold
how
on,
do we
let me
define
just.
it? Hype songs is like what gets you excited. Is it like that? And then zone
We
out is
can, yeah,
Yeah, maybe.
or just something in the background, or something like writing music, or an inspiring song for a particular mood, I guess.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Dead
for
air.
that's hard.
Studying our playlist suddenly.
For me, I guess because this is my go-to writing song for the Backstage Pass series. One is "Pray" by FD Island. It
Mm-hmm.
just it's very drum heavy. It wakes me up. Like sometimes I blast it here at home or just listen to it. It's just really a great song for me, and because it's drum heavy, I've been listening to it a lot while thinking of Steven's book. Second is Masterpiece Theater 3 by Mariana Trench. I listened to that a lot, both for Backstage Pass and my theater books, because Mariana Trench has this kind of music that it's also fit for theatrics. Um, they use violins, they use like a string, they use string quartets, I think, for some of their music, and it's very theatrical. And I really love how they shift from one kind of genre to another in one song. So yeah, that's Masterpiece Theater 3 by Mariana Trench and Pray by FD Island. Both are on Spotify.
Okay. So before I ask for the other songs, I'm just going to remind everybody to subscribe to our channel here on YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning in. So hit subscribe and there's a bell. Hit subscribe and there's a bell. Please hit that also to be notified when we have new videos up. We are streaming new episodes of the podcast also on YouTube. So to be able to be informed about upcoming episodes, definitely please subscribe and click the bell to be notified.
It's done.
Okay, up
Yeah, it's
next,
gone.
Jay,
Gone.
do you have a
Okay.
recommended song?
Yes. I'm done studying my Spotify. So since I was talking about Alex Turner, my favorite, apart from AM, because AM is for me the superior Arctic Monkeys album, there's also Submarine, which it's a film that he did all original songs for. So that entire album is awesome. My favorite from that is Stuck on a Puzzle and also Pile Driver Waltz. So for the playlist series, it's not only for one book that I've listened to the album or one of the songs on repeat, and it helps me get into the mood. Also, recently, not necessarily for a Rockstar book, but Hone, their album Love Me Not. I basically lived on that for one. Well, it's a first draft, but for one draft, I finished a first draft on that album. So that's also great. Also on Spotify, all those two things, those two albums.
Thanks, Jay. How about you, Six?
Yes. For me, also aside from AM, uh, currently what's getting me in the mood these days is from 1 O'clock, the whole Eye of the Storm album, and also the song. It's the first track.
Mm.
It's called Eye of the Storm. There's that, and then for zoning out, it's not necessarily like from a rock star or a band. Like what definitely gets me to zone out and just focus. I play game soundtracks, and like there's Skyrim, and then there's Black Flag, but yeah, I also you can also play like Carly Rae Jepsen's Dedicated
Oh
or
yeah,
Emotion
that's
Side
also
B.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yes, yes, yes.
you can also play that in the background. That's good hype music.
Thank you, Six. Uh, I'm gonna contribute something because Don is not here. So when my writing music is actually trip hop, and I listen to a lot of Massive Attack and Morchiba and Portishead when I am writing romance. So that's my tip. That's my tip.
Yay!
Hi, Don.
Sorry,
I
my
I gave
internet.
I gave a music rec while you were away. So how about let how about
I
your
didn't hear
music
everyone.
recommendation? How about your music recommendations?
Okay. For my hype songs, anything by Phoenix, I think. But yeah, my favorite is always Jets. Are You Gonna Be My Girl?
Hmm.
And Franz Ferdinand's Take Me Out. So those are kind of like my
Oh.
hype songs. Zone Out songs. I just saw she said Portishead, so my head is taking me there. I don't know.
That was my answer. Sorry.
Oh no, I haven't thought about the Zona songs, but I have this song that I listen to before I go into a big thing, like when I'm nervous to calm me down. It's Mumford and Sons After the Storm. So yeah, I guess maybe that could be like the placeholder for the Zona song.
Thank you, Don. So those were all the questions that we got online. We will stay on and answer questions here in the comments. But for now, thank you so much to our panel. Thank you for talking about rockstar romances and why, why rock stars, and how you're writing them, and I guess how we now we've discovered that you are intentionally writing them against a certain stereotype and why that is. Thank you so much. So thank you, Tara Frejas. Thank you, J.E. Tria, Six de los Reyes, and Don Lanuza. So this has been the second episode of season 4 of the Romance Class podcast. We are planning more episodes like this, like exploring the themes that we've been writing about and maybe asking ourselves why that is, why we choose to write certain things the way that we've been writing them, and maybe discovering why we love these books and what other books we could love as well. Thank you so much. And thank you. Please subscribe to the Romance Class podcast where you listen to podcasts. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, Stitcher, and there's an RSS feed. And we have a newsletter. So romancepodcast.com/killigcast. You will get informed through email if that's what you prefer. Uh, when new episodes are coming out. And then of course there's the YouTube channel at killig.pub/YouTube. It's our it's the Romance Class YouTube channel where there's more stuff than the podcast, but you will be informed when there are podcast episodes up. Thank you everyone and thank you authors. Yay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Now
Thank
comments. Hi.
Oh no.
Subscribe to our newsletter. Awesome. Okay. Is there anything in the comments?
There were questions earlier.
Yes. Let me just scroll up. So thank you to our friends who are in the who are watching and listening and are in the comments right now. Thank you for your suggestions and your feedback and your AU requests and your concurring. So I'm seeing comments here like Carla says, I want to say second guitarists are also eye emoji.
And there's a guy saying guitarist because fingers eye emoji.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Bassist.
Mm.
Thanks. That has something to do with it, I guess. Why?
Yes.
Oh, here's a question.
Okay.
I found one.
Here you go. From Jella. Hi, Jella. Thank you so much. What was your biggest rock star experience?
My
Do I go,
biggest
do I go
my
first?
my sorry. My biggest rockstar experience did not happen because I chose not to go inside the tent. I had like 2 backstage passes for a music festival. I get like like my pass is like a super pass, so I can meet like the artists under tents before they go out. And I was like really nervous, so I just ate donuts.
Also
Wait,
valid
so you
life fight.
wait,
That's
you were
valid.
there, but you were eating donuts. Okay.
Yeah, I chose not to go inside the tent because I did not want to destroy the image of this person. Like,
It's a power
killing
move
person.
though. Good job
Yeah.
though.
I'm just gonna eat my donuts in peace. So that's my not biggest rock star experience.
Does anyone have your
Um
like the
my,
closest ever? Uh-huh.
the closest ever. Dawn was there. We were at a wedding and
Oh
I was secondary sponsor, so I was part of the, after the wedding, you go to the reception and then you have to parade inside. And so basically the reception doors were closed and we were told to queue, and then uh, the instructions for once the doors open, we're just going to rush in and try to be all energetic and stuff. So there's no choreographed dance, which I was grateful for because I hate I hated that. Anyway, the door opens and we hear this song, and then I'm like, okay, they're playing a sugar-free song, cool. But then so we're rushing in, and then Evidencel was there live performing for the wedding reception, which is super cool. So we were all just rushing, no pretension required because it was super exciting to see him. It was a surprise. Nobody knew that he was going to play apart from the bride and groom, so that was really awesome. So he played for I think 5 more songs, and so it was literally a gig in a wedding reception. So it's the best ever.
Best
Don was my
wedding.
date then.
Yeah.
Best
I got a
wedding. Don
free
was my
gig.
date.
That's cool. Oh, I have pala an answer. Wah, sali ako. I have an answer. No? A friend who's a journalist, or at least she was supposed to cover this guy who was this foreign artist. Hindi sinabi yung name. This foreign artist who was in town for a con, and and she didn't really know his work, and didn't really know him, and knew I was a fan, and she said, "Can you do the interview and just give me the recording, and I'll do the article," which is perfect, right? Because I
Oh
get
my
to talk
god, no.
to I got to ask the questions and talk to him, and did not have to write the article after.
Right?
So I
For
was so I had like a few minutes of a recorded phone call with an artist I really like. And
Aww.
who shall remain unnamed. Okay.
Yeah.
who is remaining unnamed. So thank you, friend, for setting that up. That's something you can do for friends.
Yeah.
Six. What's
Uh,
your moment?
yeah, so there's also this thing where rock stars, they also have day jobs at first. So there was this one which we will not specify right now. But I think it's obvious which one it is. So so this was during the earlier days, and the bassist of this group, I think it was the bassist. I can't. Well, one member of the band was also teaching a social science Socksai 2. He was teaching Socksai 2.
Oh my god.
What? Okay.
Yeah, he was a social
Amazing.
sciences professor.
Okay. So this
Yes,
was a rock star slash social science
professor. Yes,
professor.
social science
Okay.
Oh
professor.
my god, no.
Yes, and I didn't even know that I was in his class until I was in his class, and until he was there. And I was like, huh, this is something I was not expecting. This is nice. So that happened. So there was that. And because he's a professor, their band always played at UP Fair. You know. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you,
Hulaan
Six.
sa comments.
Yes.
Sa comments.
Tara, what's your
My rockstar
story?
experience, I shared this experience with Jay, if I'm not mistaken. It's also Evidencel. We watched a gig at 12 Monkeys in Makati when they were still in Makati, and it was like a full house thing. So after the gig, we could line up and ask him for photos.
Mm.
So we we stayed after the show. We lined up for a photo, and the moment I stepped on stage, I asked Ebe, "Can I hug you? Can I please hug you?" And he said yes, of course. And he was like, I hugged him, and he said, "Thank you so much," before I could even say thank you. Um, it was
Tears.
surprising to me because I mean he is I think one of the best lyricist musicians we have
Mm.
at the moment. I love his songs. I love the way he writes his songs and he performs. And that night he was really it was a great show, and I really just wanted to thank him for a great show, but he thanked me first for coming to to his show, and that was a
Aw.
really it was really nice. And then before we even had our photo taken, this theater actor by the name of Pepe Herrera came to the stage and asked if he could photobomb with us. And I consider Pepe as also a rock star in the theater industry because
Mm.
he's really, really good. And for him to just go there and say, "Can I take a picture with you too?" Because he knows me from all of the shows that I've watched of his. And that was like a double fun, happy experience for him to just take a picture of with us with Ebe, and I will never forget that night. It was really great.
Two birds, one stone.
Yeah,
when
definitely.
when we, when you finally get
Thank
out of
you.
this panini, and you guys got a chance to watch Ebe, please do because he's really great, and also he does take the time to talk to the fans afterwards. So he spends time to so you can come up and say hi, and he really does give the best hugs and said thank
Aww.
you for the things. So when we get out of the panini and gigs are safe again, you should watch Ebe itself.
Okay. Yay, vaccines. We should we
Yeah.
should get on that right away.
Take
Hey,
effective vaccines.
yes, please. So is if so we're just hanging out here. If there are any questions, we will answer them. But we're just talking about rockstar, the rockstar trope, and rockstar experiences that we've had. Uh, so if you go to the Twitter accounts of Jay, Tria, and Don Lanuza, you'll see that they've been posting pictures of themselves at gigs that they've been to. Uh, it it shouldn't have been sad, right?
Yeah.
But now it's a little bit sad. uh, so it's just a reminder that people who are writing rock stars and musicians into their books actually do have a connection to the music and like either consuming it or kind of working adjacent to uh and really just going out and experiencing music and music festivals, which we have not been able to do right now. Right now.
Sad.
So, hey, that's a question that I have. Paano na ang summer crush? What's what's summer crush
Online.
like? What's summer crush like right now? Did they officially like cancel in 2020?
No, my head canon is they did online. They did
They
an
did
Yeah,
an
they
online
did the
online
thing.
online
summer
thing.
crush.
They did it
Mhm.
online. Yes.
After the
Okay.
first two summer crush things, there was a break. Remember, six
Yes.
we said
Right,
there was
right.
a break because there were no sponsors.
Yes, that is the official reason.
That is, yeah, that's a bit. And then the panini came, and then it became like an online concert thing. Yeah, so
Okay.
that's the head
So,
canon now.
Yes.
yeah.
That's what
Suddenly,
happened.
Tropical Hot pulled the funding. Suddenly.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, there's a question.
I was gonna say something about Tropical Hot. Like I wonder what their sales are like
Oh, right. Now in the
in
panini.
this moment. Okay.
Aww.
I'm just saying.
For the
Anyway,
rest of
let's
2020.
I feel bad for a
Oh.
I suddenly feel bad for a company that doesn't exist. But so we have a question from the comments. For you, what is the most challenging part of writing the rockstar trope, and how do you overcome this challenging part?
I have an
I guess
answer for
where
this.
yeah, like so let's hear from Tara, but just to add to that, maybe where you get stuck the most, I guess. Yeah, and
So
then
I have
Tara.
yeah, the most challenging part for me writing rock stars is the fact that I don't have like knowledge about not that much knowledge about music in like in the terms in the industry terms.
The business.
I'm right, yeah, the business terms, something like that. And I write K-pop rock stars So it's like, okay, let's find every kind of media out there that can give me information about this kind of industry, this kind of lifestyle. So sometimes I also don't know the kinds of equipment they use. So when I write scenes where they're playing music or having concerts, I have to watch things and say, oh, okay, this is what it's called. This is, the technical things, not necessarily like the huge narrative stuff. It's usually the things that you can see on stage, how bridge.
I was also
Yeah, so
sidetracked from listening to you because of
that the challenge for me is figuring out the correct terms for stuff, mostly, and also how the industry um the industry operates, I guess. I have a bit of knowledge about the entertainment industry here in the Philippines, but for South Korea, it's different. So sometimes it helps to watch K drama that tackles on the entertainment industry, like producers. Um, I also, well, of course, I saw Minami Shinayo and then Dream High, stuff like that deals with those kinds of topics. So I kind of get those kind of information from those dramas, and also gossip sites.
right.
Yeah, K-pop gossip sites. Yeah, so that's how I piece them together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does anyone else have an answer for Jay?
Well, yeah, for coming off from what Tara was mentioning, maybe the reason why I'm also having realization I'm having trouble writing the Kim book is because I feel like he would be more immersed in the business side of things. And that's also
Mm-hmm.
something that I'm not super well versed in. And the thing when I've been trying to consult with Don also with those business
Consultant.
side, yeah, consultant business side of the music industry here, is that it's been changing really, really fast. And maybe something that we've talked about last year would not necessarily work this year, especially now that we are in a panini and things have been really weird for the music industry. They're usually very much into live performances and meeting their fans that way. And now they can't, so things are changing. And I feel like with Kim, he would be more immersed in that because he's the leader in all the ways that it means. But on the flip side, Tara mentioned about writing performances. For me, naman, that's the most exciting part, the most fun part for me, and something that I look forward to writing because when I'm in watching a gig or when I'm in a concert or a music festival, when I'm watching a performance, it kind of feels good to try and translate that into writing. And that's always one of the favorite exercises that I get to do when I'm writing Rockstars.
Thank you, Jay. Anyone else have a thing to share? Six?
So I think one of the most difficult parts for me is writing the whoever is paired with the rock star, because you have to sort of fit them together. Like you have to think about schedules and lifestyles. So I think that's one of the problems that I'm having with Michael Bryan right now.
Thank you.
So
The
just
problem with
finding,
Michael Bryan.
yeah, the problem with Michael Bryan.
Michael Bryan is the problem.
The problem is Michael Bryan.
Yeah. Don,
Kasi over
do you have
because
Uh,
he is an overachiever.
a challenge, a particular
ako,
challenge that
ako
you
kasi
have?
ako kasi it's kind of like my reality in a way, so it's weird for me to go in there. Yeah, but I get what Tara's saying about like the whole technicality of like equipments and stuff because I don't play the instrument, so it's hard for me to write go like if I have the POV of that person playing something, it's it's kind of challenging for me in a way. But it's research lang, I guess. If I have to overcome it soon or whenever, yeah. But yeah, I think it's more of me just trying to unlink both of myself in a way, because for a while like I've always operated under, this is like my day job self and this is like my writer self. So but I mean, I feel like I'm close to kind of combining two of them anyway, so maybe it'll happen soon.
Thank you, Don. And so this is gonna be the last question. Rockstar romance movie or book recommendations? Do you have any that you're so Tara actually mentioned has mentioned like a drama,
Yeah.
like anything you're enjoying right now that has a band in it or
Well,
musicians.
it's
Hospital
always
playlist.
the playlist and Julie and the Phantoms.
Julie and the Phantoms.
Those would be my two things. Julie and the Phantoms because they are non-toxic. They're healthy boys. They are good
But
boys.
they're ghosts.
But they're ghosts.
Focus on
That's a minor detail right now.
it's a minor detail. It can be
I'm
fixed.
sorry to remind people of the fact that
They
they're
are
ghosts.
ghosts, yes, but they are really good rock stars and good people, and they are supportive of Julie, and I think that's awesome.
Aw.
Yes, yes, definitely.
And Hospital Playlists are not really a performing band, but they perform together in the garage, and just the skill, just the skill. So
I know the skill level.
so annoying.
Anything
So
else?
no more words. Just I'm
I'm trying to think if there are any, because a lot of the music related, rockstar related movies out there aren't really romance,
yeah.
and that is the problem.
Yes.
That's true.
That's true.
That is
The
why we are
thing
here making.
No, the
Yes.
thing I'll throw in there is the subplot in Crash Landing on You, where Captain Ray actually is a musician, and that's probably what he wanted to be and really just wanted to do with his life. had had things not gone the way that they were going. So that's like a surprise that watching that was watching that K drama was like a surprise musician. It was a surprise to find the musician trope there. Yeah, but it is there. It's really interesting. Yeah.
Good to know.
Okay. Yeah. So we can when we remember romance uh movies with the rock stars and musicians that we can recommend, we will
Yeah,
probably link
I
to
can't
them
remember
online.
books. Honestly,
Yeah.
I can't remember books that are not ours, ha. That are not ours. 'Cause I can recommend your books, but like
Yeah, I
for
was gonna
other
say
like
Jay's books, your books.
Thank you, friends.
Yeah,
Thank you, friends.
we can recommend that, but okay, and that's we'll just link to that on our Twitter and our social media when we find, and we do that all the time anyway, like we watch
Yeah.
something and then we recommend movies and books and dramas to each other. So thank you so much for your questions. Thank you for watching the podcast recording, and if you're listening to the podcast, you will be, if you subscribe to the places where the podcast can be downloaded, you will be able to listen to this again and enjoy every moment again. Thank you so much.
Why
Thank
not?
you, Tara, J, Don, and Six. Thank you, Tanya. Tanya in the background, directing and being the voice and hands of God in this stream. And thank you everyone in the comments. And we'll see you soon. Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everybody. Have a happy
Bye.
weekend. Bye.
Peace, guys.